So you can go any direction you want with your roll.
This is fine.
So you go
5.
So any direction
green.
you want.
You green. I'm going.
You gotta try. You're gonna
Don't
have
go
to try to
there.
get all the pieces of the pie figured out.
Okay, so green.
Green is the family category.
Okay, so you pull it.
One question.
One question.
Don't look.
If I would look,
Okay.
That's one. That's
So
one.
read it out loud.
Okay.
Who is the favorite grandchild?
What were Fred and John doing when they got a call that Herb and Ruth were coming home early from their ski vacation in Europe?
You have to try to guess.
Read it again.
And it doesn't have to be right.
Yeah.
Read it again.
What were Fred and John doing when they got a call from Herb and Ruth were coming home early from their ski vacation in Europe?
Fred, do you remember this?
You can't tell.
The answer to
You
the
have to
question
guess.
You have to guess.
Well, I have no idea when this was, and so
1970.
It was before your time.
What were Weiss doing in 1970?
they were in high school.
We were in high school. I think Fred was a senior and I was 10th grade.
Okay, what's your best answer?
They were traveling on a soccer team.
So what's Herbie? Do you know what the answer was?
I don't think they know the story.
We weren't there.
Okay, so what was the answer, Fred or John? Do you know?
Gambling.
Here's what we were doing. They were away for 2 weeks, and we had a huge house party at our house.
Oh, I was gonna say the party.
And then we had gone out with Suzanne Owen, and we had called a guy named Bill Paley, who we put in charge of the house while we were gone. And
Pele.
but so we had called up, and Suzanne had pretended she was a German operator because she spoke German, I think, or French. French. But she called him just to pull a prank on him. And then the next morning at about 9 in the morning, we got a call from a German operator. Would you accept a collect call from Herb and Ruth? And we said, oh, this is a bad joke. And then you had broken your leg. Remember, back.
What? You broke your back?
So they had broken. Herb and Ruth went to Austria to go skiing, and they had skied in Austria, and Herbie had stopped halfway down a trail, and somebody smashed into him, and really fast, and they fell and they rolled down. He rolled down the hill, and he got up, and he skied that day, but his back hurt, and he decided he should go not ski the next day. He decided not to ski the next day, so they decided, well, they got more time, let's take a train to Rome and see Italy. And they took a train to Rome, and Herb couldn't get out of his seat because after the next day, and they ended up. Ruth called the American embassy and says, "Where's a hospital or a doctor? My husband's hurt." And they took him to this Catholic hospital in Rome that night, and the great news was that they set up a cot in the room for Ruth, so she could stay with him. It turned out he had broken a vertebrae of his back, and they put him in a cast from here to here, and
Don't tell the cast story.
All right.
That's another question.
all right,
And then, but was it Spain or Italy?
Italy.
So Herb, do you remember anything about this?
Oh yes, very much so. And Fred has it just about right, except on a train from where we were, Austria to Rome, I got on a flat earth train, and I was stiff as a board in the morning. I had broken a vertebrae and couldn't move. So Ruth got out and called the police. And
Meanwhile, the train is still rolling.
And it was a wonderful hospital. They put a bed in, so Blue Cross would pay for Ruth, and fed her, And she went out every day, got a bottle of wine, and we had wine. And after a week or so, we got back, and they put a cast on the top of the shoulders and the hips. They had a great big hole here in the cast. And we said, "What's that for?" And he said, "For the pasta."
So could you still sit with this thing? Or with it,
No, I was stiff, I just,
with the cat? Because you had to ride home on the plane.
that was all right.
It wasn't easy.
Wasn't it? Wow.
And hadn't you fallen off the trail and Herbie was
Yes,
trying?
that's why he was standing there,
Ah,
because I had bought brand new, shiny ski pants. And the wet look, and I think they lasted one season. And I fell, and I was on my back, head first, going down the east. And it took a few minutes before I realized I could dig my skis in and stop. But meanwhile, Herb was watching where I was going, so he could come and find me later. And when I got up, I looked up to see where Herb was, but he wasn't up there. He was way down there.
okay, another
So how
rule.
about Peter take a turn?
I think we should go.
Peter, no, let's go around.
Does it get it? We're gonna go around, because otherwise.
No, no pie for now. No pie.
Not even
Like a
close.
cat, but hello.
4.
Or
Okay.
go towards pink on the orange.
So orange is wild card, so you can pick any category.
I want young Herb.
Because we know so much about it.
Yeah.
Did you leave your question out once you got it?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, we should just stack them over there.
No, we should answer them. The only way we're going to get them right is, okay, what were John and Fred doing? It's the only way.
Okay. When did Herb's mother come to the USA?
He didn't know this.
Well, I heard we were talking about your father yesterday.
Really young Herb.
He's really young.
Free her.
I'm pretty sure. So yeah. So both of your parents were foreign born. I'm gonna say 1900.
Probably 1905, but I don't know.
Pie.
So basically, you were born in 1918, and Leo was born in 1916.
Right.
And how old? And they were probably 20 when they had Leo, or 20?
22.
20.
So
That
What
means
was the
that
story?
they were born in 1895 or something.
But then when did they come here? Where did she
How
come
old
from?
was she? Where did she come from?
Say again?
Where did she come from?
Where she came from, it's a good question because I never had that much information about her early life. She lived in a poor village in Russia, and the program was going on, and they were chased from town to town, and that's all I know.
And what was her whole name?
Well, Frida was her first,
Frida.
Frida Galli, G-A-L-L-E.
That was her last name?
Frida Galli.
It sounds like Irish.
Was it Ukraine or where it came from?
I think all Jews in what we call Russia were in the Ukraine, because I think that's where they were allowed to be.
Georgia.
Odessa had a really big
Odessa.
Jewish population. It was one of the centers of Jewish life. I've done some research about Odessa. During that time, it was a very prosperous port town, a trading town.
Yes,
And Jews were allowed to be bankers there.
yes. But my grandfather's parents, my paternal grandparents were from Odessa.
But there's also
But
some
there's-
Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that not our...
And did she have any siblings that you know of?
Any sisters, brothers?
No. Not that I know of.
Okay.
Oh, she had a brother. She had a brother who I've never met, who came to this country sometimes when I was a little kid.
Wow.
Interesting. The family was not very large and not terribly
Where did they come to? New Jersey?
They came, my father came to Philadelphia as an 11, 12-year-old kid. And my mother, I think, came to New York also as a young girl. She worked as in a knitting factory or something like that, making dresses. I don't know.
Well, do we give Peter a pie?
Yes.
I think that's
pretty
good.
close.
So we'll give you an orange pie.
Yep.
Okay.
Careful, put it in right.
Right.
In the pie hole.
What does my,
What?
Okay.
You fill
Okay,
up,
go ahead.
fill it in.
The thing, and you need one of each color.
I am blue. Maybe.
No.
Yeah, I think you're blue.
You could be blue or brown.
You could just choose the color you want that says
Two. Alright, I'm gonna be blue.
what color you
Doesn't
want.
matter.
Category
Oh,
one.
I want to see the
Family.
colors. Family.
Family.
Family. Alright. How did Herb change how they greased watermelon competition at the Five Fields pool? And why did it make John cry? How did Herb change how they greased watermelon competition at the Five Fields pool?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, details, editor.
Change the.
Yeah, how do you
way it was
change it?
done.
Just change the way it was done. Scrap the how. Double how. I'm not sure.
Well, come up with a
The greased
story.
watermelon
Make up a story.
was always greased with butter, in my recollection.
Love.
I would have thought.
Crisco.
I was okay. Crisco. See,
It's his turn.
my recollection is wrong. So I don't know. I would assume that Herbie found some sort of other greasy substance that worked even better, or that like didn't get that didn't get into the pool system, or he invented some sort of like
Close.
watermelon specific grease.
No, it wasn't the grease. It was a new invention that he did, and then after he did it, it was outlawed.
Motor oil.
No, it was nothing to do with the grease.
Did he put something on his hand so he
No.
could grab it
No.
better?
Did he eat the watermelon?
No,
Have you-
no.
Herbie,
I think he invented something that counteracted the grease, so he could
No,
hold the
no, he
watermelon.
did not. He invented,
He put it in his bathing
he
suit.
invented something else.
A different shape of
Flotation
watermelon
device?
that you could actually like.
He distracted everyone with John crying.
No.
And won.
So here is what happened. There was two heats, okay? And the first heat, Jock Roby won, and then they had a runoff.
Can you
okay?
explain one thing? Where did this take place?
At the
On
Five
land
Fields
or
pool.
in the
On
water?
the
In the
Five
water.
Fields pool.
The object,
In the
the
water.
object was to get the watermelon out of the pool and put it on your side. It was like
It's a
sort of,
team sport.
it's like water rugby with a watermelon, a greased watermelon instead of a rugby ball.
And so then there was a runoff, and Herbie came in third. Jock Roby won one, and then Herbie came the third. And so they had.
How do you come in third?
There was 6 people running, and the goal was to.
You tried the hardest, but didn't
You
win.
take the tube across the watermelon across, and then you gave it to somebody else, the son, and you had to give it back.
This is different.
This game has changed.
So we had to do the watermelon, watermelon back and forth. And so the first time Herbie did it and Walter did it, okay? The next time Herbie did it with me. But in the ultimate race, the last one, Herbie went, got a running start. Everyone else had the watermelon right here, and he went back 30 feet. And he ran with the watermelon, and he beat everyone by about 30 feet. He was doing the running thing. And then I had the watermelon. I couldn't get it across. It was too big, and I wasn't a good swimmer. So I barely finished. Last. 30-foot lead. So that was my trauma.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It was too much specific.
It's all right.
No pie?
You remember?
No pie.
Your go.
Empty pie hole.
Oh, 7.
Go for pie and ice cream. 1.
Not 7.
7.
Pink.
What's pink?
Red.
Red. I do pink.
The
How did
category
herbs come to apply to MIT? That's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked. Herb never applied to MIT.
Right.
But here's the question. We actually, a new theory has just emerged.
That an application was submitted.
Submitted by his shop teacher.
Hey, it's my
I'm
turn.
sorry.
Yeah, we were talking a lot.
We heard it last night.
Yeah, well, anyways.
Well, that's-
The famous story being that Herb just got a letter of admission and an invitation to MIT, but theory is posited that his shopkeeper, upon being impressed with his aptitude with radio and television, applied to MIT for him.
Unbeknownst to him,
Do
right?
you remember, Herbie, do you remember the name of this shop?
No, I don't.
We got
What did he look like? What was he, an old guy?
You gotta look him up.
The stories you told before, I thought, was that everybody was getting Heath kits in high school.
What's that mean?
Heath kit was the do-it-yourself, make your own radio, TV, whatever. And these were like the equivalent of erector sets of electronics.
Right.
And for $30 or $20 or $10, you would write away to the Heath Kit company, and they would send you the parts and the instructions how to create these parts into various electronics. And so this was the new hot thing that you could, because it was too expensive to buy a radio, but you could build one cheaper. And so people built their own radios with Heath Kit, learned how to build it. And I thought you said that the story you told before might be incorrect. I didn't know. I thought it was that everybody was building these things, including your teachers, but then they would break them and they couldn't fix them. But they called you in and you knew how to fix them.
Right.
You took them apart and put them together again. And so that's why they thought you had such a strong aptitude.
So Herbie, did you remember, you and I bought a Heath kit at some point, right? To put together for an amateur radio
Yeah.
receiver,
Set or something.
Yeah.
receiver set or transmitter set, I forget what it was.
And 4 computers.
Yeah, so we bought, I remember, I think you did 90% of
He was
the
very
the
excited
soldering.
about it.
Yeah, you did 90% of the soldering. It was a lot of soldering. But I did learn how to solder. That was good. That was very good.
So Herbie, the radios you built in high school, were they all from Heath kits, or did you build them from stuff you bought?
I don't know what happened to the things, but I messed quite a bit with various kits you could buy. They really were not a problem, it's just sort of putting them together.
I was thinking about you the other day, Herbie, because I'm trading in my modern amplifier for an old one that's got tubes. I have to solder connections when they get crackly. Yeah, so I have to learn about this.
Yeah.
Back to the past.
Yeah.
We'll give
But it
you
sounds
a
better.
color.
It sounds better. It still sounds better.
Jake, you get a pink.
Right.
That's right.
Sam, you
I
go.
love how you put it in
I'm
there.
gonna pass it
You want to put it
back.
into it?
You can put it.
Make your own mistake.
You're on.
I'll be brown.
Okay.
Okay, wild card. You get to choose any category.
I'll do outdoors.
Okay.
How old were you when you went to MIT?
16.
What did Herb say when he was dug out after falling headfirst in the snow while skiing?
Say it again.
Say it again. Let it louder.
What did Herb say when he was dug out after falling headfirst in the snow while skiing?
In Aspen. Actually, I think I
Nice to
wrote.
meet you.
I can use it.
Damn.
No.
Go to
No.
next one.
No, I thought I.
John, let
No, I did the question
I would guess thank you.
Probably true.
I don't remember.
Didn't,
You
maybe
know,
this is a
you have,
story.
you have it.
I have a story.
The person who dug you out was Chinese.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
person who dug you out was Chinese.
So Herbie, tell us.
Tell us what you told
I
us.
was skiing up at Wolf Creek Pass, and it was
Where is that?
It's in Colorado.
Colorado. And snow was very deep, and we were just cross-country skiing. And it was probably like a sinkhole, but I was skiing and all of a sudden, pop.
Whoa.
I fell down maybe 6 feet in water,
Whoa.
head down first. And I looked up and there was a guy trying to help me get out with Chinaman. And I said, God, I've fallen through.
Bruce, were you there?
No.
How does that?
This is when you were in Los Alamos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, during Los
Late
Before
40s.
my time.
Late 40s.
late 40s at Los Alamos.
Late 40s.
So did you do a lot of skiing?
Well, we went up there, well, it was with a gang of guys who mostly went up to Leadville with the ski troops practicing. And we were up there before there was any ski town. And the town was like 6 houses. Instead of being the village.
That was Aspen.
No.
Yeah.
And I could have bought the Red Onion was for sale, big bar there. And I think they wanted $1,000. I didn't have $1,000. Big bar house. And, we did a lot of skiing before there were ski jumps.
What kind of ski were you on?
Now there's mosquitoes.
And the guys I was skiing with, I remember some of them I met later. They were all Los Alamos people. Some followed me to MIT. Lynn Kelly,
Yeah, I remember.
Walter Dyke, people like that, people who are quite good physicists. They were, all my peers have died. One of the problems about growing old is all the people you associate with when they were young, they all die at 85. I don't know.
You gotta choose your friends more carefully. So basically, about 10 years ago, you got a call from the Los Alamos Historical Department wanting to know about, because you were the president of the Los Alamos Ski Club,
Right.
and they wanted to know some history about it because they were trying to get their documentation correct.
Well, we had a small group, there was a hill behind Los Alamos, half a mile away up a miserable road. And the Army ran Los Alamos, Army something like that. And after skiing there for a year or so, I was asked to be talked about it. We needed a warming hut. And we needed a log cabin with a little fireplace. And so we sat down and we drew up a little sketch of like a 6x6, like an outhouse almost. And I took this into the front office of the Recreation Commission of the Army. And they said, well, we'll look at it. They ended up with about a 60-foot by 60-foot house. Great big fireplace. And they fixed the road. They thought the whole thing was a good recreation facility.
Oh, wow.
And I'll always remember, we used to run, every Sunday we had a ski tournament. We went down to Santa Fe, and the sports shop was very helpful because that's where everybody went. And they donated a pair of skis for one weekend. Great
For the winter.
And for the winter, it was, and it was a pretty steep hill. It wasn't taken care of very well, full of stumps and stuff. Well, I went shushing right down the hill as fast as I could go. And I banged a tree in the bottom. I really broke my skis. And I won a new pair.
Wow. So how many months a year did it have snow up there?
How many?
How many many months a year was there snow?
Oh, up in the hills there, it's about 8,000 feet.
Mm,
But we had snow every 4 months or something like that.
cool.
It was quite a...
But you had to hike up the hill every
Had to walk
time,
up the
right?
hill
Yeah,
until they built the road,
yeah.
and then some people took their horses up there. The horses were very common. My roommate was...
So worse.
Leaving us almost going to school or something. He had 2 horses. One was Sammy and one was Toast. Take care of a horse is quite a job. You have to deal with the food, the waste, and so on. And I bought him each for $1. The hazard to take care of was quite a... And I kept him just a month and I got rid of him.
You bought what, a horse?
He bought
2 horses.
off his roommate.
Horses. Well, there are a lot of nice trails around there. And used to ride them to work, parking outside. I only lived about 4 or 5 blocks from the lab entrance.
We should bring that back.
It was,
Yeah. In Austin, there's people riding horses in the street. You get a DUI on your horse.
Happens in Denver all the time.
but it was a pretty rustic world then. And anything goes. I mean, the lab was very active, very busy, and working 24. It never closed. I mean, Saturday, Sunday, you could work if you wanted to. And if you wanted to come to work barefoot, you could get away with it. I mean, nobody gave a damn.
The first high-tech informal company.
Yeah, sure.
How many of you remember once on the orientation tour of Los Alamos, the first day you're there, they have a program to show you where the places are. And I remember being in a car, and this guide said, "This is the married people's dorm. This is the single people's dorm. Single couples dorm." This is the married couples dorm.
How many people were in Los Alamos?
How many people were in Los Alamos?
Oh, I suppose 4,000 or 3,000.
Working on the facility or just having?
Families.
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah.
had a school, hospital. You know, what you end up in a place like that is cooks for the motor pool and a motor pool for the cooks. You know, it's part of the thing.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of support. Probably 1 in 6 is working. The rest are going to kids or something.
You know, we almost went back to Los Alamos. And Herb was waiting around for me to graduate from medical school. I had 2 years ago. And I wrote a letter to the Los Alamos Hospital asking if I could be an intern there. And they wrote back that they didn't have interns, but I noticed on the stationery that on the board was the medical director of MGH. So I went to see him and he said, they don't have interns because they didn't think anybody would ever come. But you want to be an intern there? What department? I said, pediatrics. And he said, fine, you're on. So I got a letter from them accepting me as an intern, and they said, and because of your various degrees, you are an official number, government number, and this entitles you to a salary. We weren't paid something like $5,000 a year plus a 3-bedroom house.
Whoa.
But we didn't go.
I was entitled to one thing.
So why didn't you go? What was happening next?
Because Lincoln Lab opened.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, I was on my way there.
So I went to Mass
People
General
dragged me
instead.
somewhere.
Oh.
Okay.
You know, the most important thing is to be associated with people who are very competent, very good people. The associates, your boss, your leaders, people who are well respected and have a role in society is important. Because when you really get down to it, it's the people you work with and live with that control your life. It really, if the director of the lab said, I want you to take a course here and I can set you up, fine. If he didn't have the clout to do that, it wouldn't happen. And anything you wanted to do was possible if you had a good team of people. I mean, anything. You can't. I can remember in the laboratory, we wanted the radar to go around and around and around, and we wanted it like tomorrow. So we thought about how do you get something like that? Well, you get a carousel. So we went into the office and said, I want to buy a carousel quick as we can. Next day there was a carousel delivered. You can't believe it. And the same as if you need an airplane or a ship to do tests, whatever you want. It's just if you run the country.
So they were
And
thieves.
there were a bunch of kids that were 25 years old. Very, very critical situation. All the bright work, all the important work is done by people that are 25 to 30. They have to go through school and get the background. And then if they happen to fall in an environment which is going places, which is developing, they get caught up in the flow and good things happen to them. Anybody today who's a young biophysicist who's 25 years old and got a degree from a good school, he's got a career, there's no question. His future is bright, he's got a big salary, he's got many options, and he'll probably go to school again. But if you end up in Podunk College, which has no relationship to what's going on, you end up in a different way. So it's the people you can associate with that determine your future.
Next question.
Four. Moving on. Outdoors.
Outdoors. Oh, blue, yeah.
Yeah.
Sailing.
Where did Herb and Ruth go to pick up wind power? I believe they went to Sweden or Denmark.
Which one?
Sweden. Okay.
Yeah, so you get a plastic.
So,
Did you have to go to Sweden to get the boat, or
Well,
was
it's
that?
an interesting story. We were looking for boats. We I was working on U.S. wind power, the company that was set up. It had been going for 3 years. Going great guns. We had 350 people in the country, in the company. And operations in California, operations in a couple of places. And growing as fast as you could interview people. There were always good candidates. Every day you got to hire 3. Bang, bang, bang. In any event, I was working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was just too much after a couple of years. And one day we went off skiing, I guess.
There's Walter and Susan.
Okay. And I started seeing double. And Ruth got very worried. Harry got very worried and said,
All three of us.
got to go to the hospital, get checked out after they see a doctor. Because it might have been a brain problem or something major. And got to the hospital. They put me in a room, dark room, gave me Valium. At first they did all kinds of tests. Everything checked out fine. Put me in a dark room with Valium, put me to sleep. Next day I got up, they did the same thing. Couldn't find anything wrong. Gave me more Valium. And after 3 days they said, nothing wrong with you, just overwork, knock it off. And the doctor, I always remember, he said, you have 2 options. You can do what you're doing. You might live 6 months.
really?
You might live 6 months.
Whoa.
Or you can knock it off and relax and enjoy yourself. Well, that was a pretty strong message. So resigned. This guy was vice president of engineering at this company, and doing great. And decided we were going to go sailing, and we started looking for a boat, a liveaboard cruising boat. And we looked around, couldn't find anything interesting in America. I was busy still cleaning up work. Ruth was looking. And we went down to Essex, Connecticut to look at it, follow up on an ad. And we looked at it, there was no way a good boat. In the yard there was a boat we liked. So we just shipped over from Sweden. It was up on the stand, being fitted out with instruments and stuff. And we looked at it, and we said, gee, that's a good boat. I wonder how much it costs. And we checked it out, it was $400,000. I said, oh, that's much, much too much. And I said, you know, that's a great boat. I wonder how much it would cost if we went to Sweden and put it in the factory without the shipping and the middleman and all of that. And it was like $270,000. So we said, I think we could swing that, maybe. So we got on the phone, called the company, and they answered in English.
That's because you said a lot.
I was afraid when I called Sweden, I said trouble. And I told them I liked this particular boat they had, and you know, how long would it take to buy one, and what would the price really be? And the price was the same, and they said, well, we're very busy, got a production line going, but we wanted one July 1. That's the day I decided I was going to quit and get over it. They said, oh, we can't do that. We're very busy. But how about July 15th? In America, when you order a boat, you have to wait a year. Here we're talking about a couple of 3 months to get the production. They said, if you send us a 10% deposit, we'll put you on, firm up a boat. I'll give you a number. And so we went over to Sweden a week or 2 before, 2 weeks before. Said, we'd like to watch our boat go together. And it was 4th of July or something, and we showed up there, went into the manager's office and said, I'm so-and-so, I ordered a boat, we came over to watch it go together. And he said, he looked at a big chart and said, we don't have the hull yet. It's coming in next week. And he said, well, you made a commitment to give it to us 7, 8 days later. He said, oh, we'll be ready, don't worry. So we stood around Sweden and visited some friends and we contact. At the event, the hulls were made, the fiberglass was made at some factory down the road, and they towed the thing in a 3-wheel trailer behind a truck to the factory where they had put all the stuff together. It was nothing but plastic, no wood, no metal, nothing. Plastic. And we went to visit the factory. There were 7 of these in a row, with big scaffolding. And they were all on 3-wheel dock trailers, and each one was 1 day ahead of the other. And we said, well, our boat will show up, whatever day it was, Thursday. We'll be there Thursday morning to watch it go together. We show up Thursday morning, we couldn't get on the boat. There were 11 men working on it. They ran it like a Ford production line. Every single people could put on the rudder, or people put on the railings, people painting, people this, and so well organized. And we started to see how they did it. They had a whole string of garages. They looked like garages. Each one had a boat number on it. Boat number 52, 53, 54. And there was a list of parts on the door of the garage. It must have had 5,000 parts. Every bolt, every screw, every belt, everything, all listed. And somebody in the stock department had a responsibility to be sure on a certain date that every one of the blanks was checked off. So that when the right time came, the whole thing was ready to make a boat happen. This is the way it works in America.
And now they've turned that factory into IKEA. Now it's IKEA.
any event, the boat was ready on a great day. In fact, the day before, they called me in and said, we're sorry, the boat will not be ready tomorrow morning. And because the way the contract was written, I could have canceled it that notice. And I said, when will it be ready? He said, about 12. We have two water boats in America. They're supposed to be ready in July. About November, they show up.
Amazing.
So how old were you when you left the company? How old were you?
63.
64.
64.
And that was the best thing we ever did. Because,
Here he is.
well, I'm here only because of Ruth, because she takes care of me. She's the right food at that time. So, I don't know how we got into this question.
Okay, so you're doing a roll?
Round two.
30 years later, we're making the same boat, like the improvements.
What's the name of the company?
All the rest. Very large in Europe, not much in the US.
Was that a 4? That was one more.
Yeah.
What category is that?
Food and travel.
Did you get a square or whatever?
Yeah, and the other one.
Oh wait, you know what? We weren't supposed to get pies. You get pies if you answer it on.
Oh,
Never mind.
Never finished.
Start over. Yeah.
I think we said this was
We
good.
didn't have a full
You should probably should have bagels instead of pies.
One.
You're like a drink, you gotta eat a bagel.
What was the most ambitious outdoor barbecue project that the Weisses ever tried, and why did they decide to do it?
Say it again.
What was the most ambitious outdoor barbecue project that the Weisses ever tried, and why did they decide to do it?
You hear that? What was the most?
You're not supposed to answer.
Well, is this an opinion? Because that could be an
No, it is
opinion.
a fact.
Well,
There's a subjective.
yeah, is
form of
it
it.
like a formula to figure out how ambitious something is?
Yes.
In this case, it's sort of really.
There's one specific, really extreme case, which you might not have heard of, which is
Okay,
fine.
yeah.
Before
I
you,
don't know what they're talking about.
But you
Yeah.
can guess, you can guess.
So what I think is that it was a rival barbecue, and like every year someone does a barbecue, and they wanted to make theirs the coolest barbecue in 5 fields, and so they tried to make,
And so,
they did something crazy. I have no idea what.
okay.
Does any of the other grandchildren? Anybody else?
Go ahead.
So, do you want me to tell the story?
You tell
Yeah.
the story.
Do you want me to tell the story?
No,
Do you know what the story is?
I'm not sure.
So, this was when Herbert and Ruth were hosting exchange students at their house, and they hosted a Greek guy,
Achilles.
Achilles, I didn't know his name was Achilles, and Achilles, sort of as repayment for you guys hosting him, wanted to roast you guys,
It's a
like,
Greek meal.
was it a lamb or a pig or something?
oh, he said, for Greek Easter, they always have a whole lamb on a barbecue.
Right.
On a spit.
And Herb said, we can do that.
Right, and you tried, and so somehow Achilles explained to you guys the process is like you buy this whole animal, and you put it on a spit, and then someone stands up there and turns it for 12 hours. And Herbie, you didn't think that was the best use of your time. So
You put it on some sort of time.
you built a machine, right, that turned the spit for you.
Right.
So in the old days,
And Achilles mailed it back to his mother.
Machine?
So basically, in the old days, when we were kids, you could get a barbecue, which was like a little table stand made out of metal for briquettes to go in. You could cook your hamburgers or steak or chicken on top. But if you wanted to pay a little bit more, above that, you could buy a skewer on a little motor, a rotisserie for cooking a whole chicken.
Right.
And so Herbie cooked up with pulleys got this little rotisserie to turn the lamb
A
around.
much larger split.
Yes, he had it pulleyed and geared up so it could do the larger.
We actually dug a hole in the backyard.
Yeah, you do it on, you dig it in this, you dig the pit in the yard, in the dirt, you line it, and then you get the fire hot and you cook, because it's 6 feet long,
Yeah.
5 feet long. But the interesting thing, as I remember, was Achilles explained that the youngest boy starts out with the youngest son over a certain age starts out turning it, he gets 20 minutes, and then the next oldest and the next oldest, and so every 20 minutes, because it's too hot.
Yeah.
After 20 minutes of sitting next to the fire, turning the lamb by hand for 5 hours, whatever it takes to cook a lamb. So it was an all-day event. So those days we had a Polaroid camera, and we took a picture of it, and Achilles immediately thought that everybody in Greece would want to buy one.
So,
Started a company right then.
so Herbie, who was Achilles?
He was a graduate student. Every year we had the habit of contacting the foreign student office and say we'd like us. Once John was playing basketball,
He wanted Africa.
he wanted an African person, so we found it. We wrote another little note saying we'd like an African guy who plays soccer. And here comes this, they pick it and send it to, we've been at the airport, take him home, and first week or two, help him get set up. And he was 6'6" tall.
It's Hong Kong.
We got this letter
From
from
where?
him saying,
What does that mean?
I am not a typical African. I am Chinese.
How will I recognize you at the airport?
I don't play
I
soccer.
am 6'6" and I'm Chinese.
I play basketball.
But he was from
Achilles was the first one.
Chinese
And
restaurant.
I don't know who was in 6th grade, maybe John, 4th grade, studying
Oh.
Greeks.
There was,
But who was the child who wanted a Greek?
Maybe me.
Maybe you.
yeah.
We're getting Achilles.
It's very interesting.
I'm gonna bring him this
That
quote.
reminds me of something else.
Not sure what it's up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I don't know, Walter or one of the boys to the airport to catch a plane. And as I was walking back to my car, there were 3 Japanese sailors,
It was John you were taking to the bus station.
and they had military uniforms on. They were over to the U.S. on some sort of exchange training. They're going down to Newport, Rhode Island. But it was a weekend, and they had a day or two. So out of the blue, one of these kids walked over to me and said, "Could you take me home?" Just like that. I hadn't seen him, hadn't known him. And I said, "Why not?" He said, "I've got a couple of guests for breakfast." So these 3 young guys who spoke very, very poor English, hardly you could kind of make it out, but well, we got home to our house and they liked it, so we fed breakfast. They didn't know what to do with knives and forks.
Or bacon and eggs.
Whoa. It's in the 60s.
They didn't use chopsticks, couldn't understand it.
Okay, if John,
If
if
John
John
was
was in
teenager.
high school, say John was 15,
Like 1970.
65.
1970.
If he was 15.
In any event,
Yeah, 70.
we wanted to take some pictures outside the yard, and they said, "Can't go outside without my hat on." They were very rigid, you know. We're gonna go outside, they had to put their white cap on and stand. And the other thing I said, well, you're going to Newport for training, what are you trying to do? What's your goal? And he shocked me, he said, "Kill Americans." The kids were brought up after Pearl Harbor, after the Japanese surrender, and they obviously did not like Americans.
Whoa.
Of course, they had a very limited view of the world. But they were going to Newport to learn how to kill Americans.
Whoa.
It's amazing.
All right, Petey, why don't you have a turn in this?
Yeah.
What's that last one?
5. I'm pink. Brown. No.
Yeah, Brent.
Brown. Okay.
Work.
Work. Yeah, we haven't done this yet. Work.
Boy, that's hard work to put that together.
Susan did.
Susan, you did a great job. Well, the boys, your sons thought of the questions.
Yeah. Okay. What work did Herb do at Kwajalein Atoll? Kwajalein Atoll? No, I don't think that's Bikini Atoll.
No, that's different.
You worked at the atoll booth. Finally.
Gets a foul.
One of the problems you run into when you have both the Air Force developing missiles and the Navy developing missiles, each one wants to say, I do a better job than you do. You know, my interceptor can intercept Germans. And it's a big battle for money. They all want extra support, and they say, well, we're doing this wonderful job, and we can do this better than the other guy. So the laboratory got dragged, this is the Lincoln Laboratory, got dragged into the problem of being a neutral empire. And how do you evaluate this? You got to do tests. And where do you do the tests with missiles? Not in Massachusetts. And it turned out that there had been some previous work deciding that if you shoot missiles out of California, where they had a military defense setup, you fire them into Kwajalein or nearby, and in that Kwajalein you have optical systems and radar systems and IR systems and airplanes with equipment to evaluate not only where it went, but did the interceptor work? And that goes on day after day, week after week. It goes continuous effort. You don't hear much about it because it's all secret. Not that secret, because the Russian ships were sitting out there watching too. But the laboratory had a role. So they asked the laboratory, how do you build a measurement radar that would do better than the present stuff? And I was working on that at Lincoln. I ran the radar division. So we had some radars, and then you got to bring them out in the field. And we had a whole contingent of maybe 30 scientists and engineers with their families out there. They go out for 2 years and come back. So that's what we're doing. It was an evaluation program. And it's very difficult to be arbitrator when you've got the Army and the Navy fighting each other.
Fighting the referee.
You say, well, that wasn't right, that wasn't right. You've got to be a referee, impartial. So you've got to be technically correct. And that's a big job. Now, interesting enough, little by little in the last decade or so, more and more of the operational instruments have been operated automatically. And the people are back home in the laboratory looking at the instruments. You can
Remotely monitor.
they can measure, make all the measurements sitting back, not all, but with computers and processors, instead of doing it out there, you can bring it all home. So instead of having maybe 30 scientists there, maybe 4, and the rest of the people are really home.
So what years was that?
35 years ago, counting backwards,
No, more than that.
More than that.
40 years ago,
Probably was in the 50s, wasn't it?
50s,
1950s.
55, something like that.
Yeah, it's 55 years ago.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, next.
Logan.
I don't remember what color I am. You're blue. Okay. All right. Cool. One. Well. Wow. Work.
Are people chilly or warm or cold?
I'm fine.
I'm really chilly.
Are you cold?
I'm just a little,
It's a little chilly, maybe.
just a little.
Okay, let me just put it at a couple of degrees.
Where did Herb go to build radars for the dew line? This is something that I would have known 8 years ago, but I don't remember anymore.
Make up something.
Where did Herb go? Well, I don't remember what the dew line was, but I don't know, I guess spin you a tale about moisture on grass.
Second word stands for early.
Just as early warning?
This is early warning.
Was this in Europe?
Well, there was I don't know how deep to get into this, but back when the hydrogen bomb was in the Soviet hands, a great concern about a surprise attack on American defense forces. The principal defense forces we had was the B-52 bombers, which carried nuclear weapons. We had about 30 of those that were kept on ready alert. That meant the crew was always within 20 minutes of the airplane. They practically lived in trailers nearby and rotated and all that. Very great concern because that if the Soviets could launch an attack and get rid of the B-52s, we had no defense. There was literally no defense. They could send a pilot cub with a BB shooter and go get right through. So the concern is getting warning, getting early warning. And early enough so that if there was an imminent attack, you could get the B-52s off the ground. And you probably don't know, but there was a period of maybe 3 years where the Air Force kept a 3-star general up in the air in the B-52 in a control aircraft, circulating around in an unknown area, but they had the command and control responsibility. So he could launch an attack.
At all times.
And the Soviets knew that.
Yeah.
And because of that, it was a propaganda deterrent. I mean, they wouldn't want an attack if they couldn't defeat the forces. So a lot of this, in retrospect, it looks kind of, how the hell did you do that sort of thing? But there was a great anxiety because the Soviets and the U.S. didn't trust each other. Great, people in the street didn't appreciate that. But the scientists did. They knew how they were building submarines and they were testing torpedoes and doing things, which the man in the street didn't know. And there was very little technological difference between the two countries. I mean, we might be ahead of them in one area and they were ahead of us in something else. So, great anxiety about watching what they're doing, understanding what they're doing. Well, out of that came the need for some early warning radars. So a group was convened at MIT, consisting mostly of Bell Lab people, MIT people, and a few other people, the Defense Department, to say, what do you do about air defense? How can you get warning so the air defense system isn't caught in a surprise? And they decided the most likely attack was aircraft. At that time, there were no missiles of any capability. And then how would an airplane go from the Soviet Union to the U.S.? The shortest way by far is over the pole. There's no other direct route that's anywhere near that. And that was just on the edge of what a big aircraft could do at that time. So you needed some warning systems up in as far north as you could get them in the Arctic, so that if they detected an incoming raid, you could alert the U.S. And so that was sort of the big challenge that first came to the foundation of Lincoln Laboratory, continental air defense. And of course you needed some kind of warning equipment, and radar was the problem. So how do you take the Arctic at that time was very primitive. No airfields, no roads, no transportation, no fuel supply. So this group that working on Memorial Drive up in the Lever Building cooked up a scheme where we put a series of radars 30 miles apart, 50 miles apart along the Arctic. And there were 39 radars that went from Alaska all the way across to Iceland. And I was given a job of putting the radars together, designing it, figuring. And very interesting and exciting activity. It wasn't the fact that it was a problem, but they won it next month.
Yeah.
I mean, and the president, I really mean the president, went to Bell Laboratories, Western Electric, and said, I want 6,000 people at work on this project next week. Don't tell me you can't do it next week. Stop anything. It's national priority #1. And so they had to build. You go up in the Arctic, you have to ship oil because you have to run the heating systems in the house. You have to build a dock in the Arctic. You have to transport all of that stuff during the summer months. You got a 4-month window to bring up and all the houses and all this food and all the rest of it. Tremendous logistic job. The Western Electric Company was chosen because they were the telephone company. AT&T at that time, that was a support group. And they could pull 6,000 people off the job tomorrow. They had the people working. Nobody else had it really. And they had, design people and construction people. Well, the whole thing went along very, just on schedule. It was really easy. Sort of 18 months later, we had a network of radars running. Then they had a problem getting the signals from the north to Colorado Springs, which was another technical microwave communication links, all of that. And Lincoln Laboratory started at the same time frame almost, and probably 18 months later, we probably had 1,000 people working.
In answer to the question, I think Herb went to Alaska,
I went to
Thule, Greenland, and to Scotland.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So was it, I should probably know this, but was it clear that they would come
There was no way.
clockwise or counterclockwise? Or they're going to take off from
An airplane at that time carrying a weapon, a bomb.
Yeah, but it was from Alaska all the way around.
It's a 4,000-mile trip or something.
But, and did you know where in Russia they would take off from? Because if they take off from like Archangel or
They
like...
would go up near as far north as they could keep a base going.
Yeah.
But he's asking whether they could take off and fly over Alaska and come at the western United States, or fly
It sounds like you're
off of,
sort of spread around.
fly off of western
Well, that's
Russia
why
and go
they
over
went
to
to
eastern.
Scotland, to
And all we
Alaska.
could defend is the northern reaches where we control property. And all they could launch from is their area. It's hard to think of how paranoid we were. But there was evidence that they were building bombers, they were building bombs, they were building training people, they were doing everything we were trying to do. And in some cases, they did a lot better. And 10 years later, when we visited the Soviet Union, we still saw evidence of that. I mean, they locked us up in a room and they kept us for hours while they looked through our luggage. And, you can't believe how.
Even in 1970, when I was there,
We didn't have nasty feelings. We didn't feel anti-Russian.
right,
But we were worried about.
So you were there in the same time frame as we were. We were there in 68, we were there in 70.
right, the KGB would still follow our group all around the street.
Yes, they followed her, they didn't follow me.
It was unsafe. You weren't supposed to call a Russian from your hotel or have them come into the hotel because they could get in major trouble. They could be, thought to be a spy. You had to meet people at a public place. You had to call from a telephone booth.
Yes.
I may have told you the story about, we were in a hotel room and we were told it was going to be bugged. Everything we said was going to be down on tape recorders. So be cautious about what you say. Well, there's a story about the two CIA guys who were sent to Russia to do something under diplomatic cover. They ended up in a hotel room, and they said, we know the room is booked, and here we are professionals. You know, we should be able to understand what they're doing. So they looked at every telephone, every electric socket, under every couch, looking for a bug. And they spent the whole day trying to figure out how their room was booked. And they had a parquet floor, and the guy was tapping on the tiles, and he hit a hollow. And they took the penknife and they pried it up, and sure enough, there's a bunch of wires there. So the guy took his penknife and cut the wires. One, two, bang, 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 bang. 10 minutes later, knock on the door. The manager came up and said, what's going on? The chandelier fell downstairs. But it was really peculiar. We had cockroaches in the bathroom.
But, go.
Called and asked for, someone to come and take care of cockroaches. That doesn't happen in America, you say, And nothing happened. And Ruth stood in the middle of the room and said, this couldn't happen in America. There are cockroaches in the bathroom. 5 minutes later. You can't imagine how I walk down the street and every half a block someone would stop me and want to buy my necktie. As long as I didn't sell anything, it was okay. If I tried to get involved with it, then they could lock me up as violating the law.
A smuggler of neckties.
Nobody changed your color right? We're gonna have continuity in the scene.
Right.
That question that Logan
Good.
got was the one about defense.
Would you mind?
Oh,
When you came close enough that we
Yeah,
thought.
we give you a pie.
Take your turn.
But I'm ready.
Okay, give it a roll.
Hit it.
What color you got?
Take orange.
Orange.
Have your choice.
Can you go backwards?
Yellow.
Food, travel.
Okay. How many times did Herb fly from Boston to England during World War II? How long did the trip take? From Boston to England, and does not include flying back.
Let's read that.
You swam that at least twice.
I reckon 3 times.
And how long did it take?
10 hours.
Well, you're about right on trips, but I'm not sure how many. But the timing, when you flew from Boston, my first trip,
Oh, you probably had to stop.
from Boston to England, the plane went from, the first flight I went from Washington to Limestone, Maine, Limestone, Maine to Greenland, Greenland to Iceland, Iceland to Scotland, and Scotland to London. And that was as far as the plane could fly.
Oh.
I mean, these were big Air Force airplanes, and you get in the air 4 hours, they run out of gas. And so it took essentially 24 hours to make the trip, and maybe a little bit longer.
Did you ever go to Newfoundland or Gander? Did you ever stop in Gander? Or is that mountain?
Yeah, Gander, Newfoundland. I remember being kissed by the Soviet ambassador to Gander.
Kiss?
We came down again. We landed late at night, midnight, in a snowy field. The plane we were on was run by a general who was in charge of the support for the bases. He was making a routine trip, and he provided the steak, and he provided the blankets, and he provided the food, and the trucks, and the rest of it. So the commanders of the bases were very eager to see us. And we landed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and here comes this entourage of military vehicles, maybe 8 of them now, with all the officials of the base. including the Soviet ambassador. And as we came down, the walkway runway was a ladder going down. The Soviet ambassador kissed everybody.
U.S. Russia relations never forget. Yeah. That was all a sham. Or better.
I couldn't avoid it.
If that guy had just been in charge of everything, we were fine.
Yeah. You needed an early warning system for the kids.
So, I think Jacob gets
I
pie.
think I got pie.
Okay, so that was
Yellow
the
pie.
yellow pie.
All right.
Sam, it's your turn. The die is over by you, Luke. You can pass it over here.
Yeah, 1970s. They just dropped the kiss mark.
6.
What's going on?
Okay. Wild card. No, roll again. Roll again.
Roll again.
Ooh.
It was 11.
Roll again.
No,
It's a brown.
It's a brown.
It's a well.
It's a brown. Right.
No, it's a work.
Oh, work.
Work. Was always, I mean, in the real way, you don't get a pie. That's the way.
So, yeah, I think
So
like,
you
yeah.
How old was Herb when he went to England in World War II?
Ooh. Do you remember from last
So I asked him, he
He's
said he would.
22.
That's what I remember.
That's right. Yeah.
Pie for the man.
Pie for the men. That's a word question.
How old were you when you went to England?
I think I was 22.
Good.
Got it.
All right, next.
Marina.
2. And then on a yellow. What was Herb eating on a bus in England that provoked stares during World War II? I'm pretty
Read it
unfamiliar.
again.
What?
Read it again.
What was Herb eating on a bus in England that provoked stares during World War II? Well, everything was rationed during World War II, so it might not even have been that it was such an unusual thing just for us. It might have been that it was just something that was delicious that everybody wanted.
Good thinking.
But I feel like I don't know this story.
I don't know the story. Maybe like
No,
a
it's
summer
Sanders.
story.
Guess a category.
Maybe I bet like a fruit.
I'm not sure.
Ooh, that's a good guess. I bet they didn't get any oranges. I'm gonna guess an orange. It's totally.
I think you're very close.
Yeah. Do you remember this story, Herbie? I
How
know
about
you remember
Weiss?
this story.
Well,
How about
I'm
grapes?
not sure. Aside from the Brussels sprouts, which I didn't.
You were eating Brussels sprouts on the bus?
Off the stock.
Day after day after day after day.
But that's
I do
not
remember one thing. First time I drove a car into London, I had just arrived shortly before. I was very hungry, and there was a vendor there selling fruit, grapes. And I looked at him and said, I'd like some of those grapes. In England during the war, grapes were a rarity. They were scarce and very expensive. They almost counted the grapes when they sold them $1 a piece or something. And I, not knowing any better, and just having come over from America, said I'd like a pound of those, or half a pound of those. That was unheard of. I mean, no one could ever buy a pound of grapes in England. They cost $40 or something.
Whoa.
And the British had no money, it was no sturdy. And so I got this big bag of grapes. And people I was with were astounded. I didn't appreciate the difference at that time. I had American dollars in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I paid $10 for some grapes or something.
That reminds me of your story about the officers club in London.
Different stuff.
Well,
Okay, is that in
You
here?
can tell us, but we're not gonna get through. There's like 78 questions in the game.
The British liaison officer was sent from England to be at the lab. British Technical Liaison Officer, and Dennis Robinson, Dr. Robinson. And walking down the street one day, I met him in the street. He said, "I'm going to lunch. Would you like to come with me?" And I had access to the office club. And he hadn't eaten a good meal for 2 weeks, as far as I could tell. I mean, the officers club had food. It was like an American Army camp. They wanted everything you could think of. And he hadn't seen a good piece of meat in weeks. So I took him here as high official in the British scientific club. We didn't have enough, really didn't have anything except, beans and cauliflower.
Wow.
And he always reminded me.
Did you,
about how I invited him to the officers club in London.
Did you catch any flack from the other officers? Did they care?
Oh, no, I was fully accredited.
I thought they almost didn't let you in at the door. That's when you were 22.
Well, if I show my papers, they say, "Yes, sir." It was always common. I was just a kid. And I would come to this entry post at a military base, and I wanted to go and see the commander, or a technical guy, or some engineering department. And as I drove my vehicle, which frequently was an ambulance, because that's what they had lots of before the war. And then go to the border pool and check out a vehicle. Couldn't find a sedan, but had 300 ambulances there.
Whoa.
So we check out an ambulance. And I drive up to the little outpost at the gate, and the soldier there was lounging, and I handed him my papers. He said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." Because I was the same rank as the commander of his base.
Whoa.
Okay, so Marina
gets a pie.
Marina gets a pie.
Really? Close enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Fruit.
All right.
Oranges and grapes are the same in our household.
Oranges are just colors.
Who went
grapes.
Go ahead, Ted.
Could have just said purple.
Ted's turn.
Two.
Either way.
Okay,
Roll
so
again.
Young Herb. I know a lot about Young Herb.
You're sort of embarrassed because you said it with this thing.
Well, that's the point.
What was Herb's father's name? Father's name.
Said,
What was Herb's father's name?
Grandpa.
what was your...
Dad.
George.
Well, no.
No, you were supposed to answer.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
that's what say it louder.
Yeah.
Should
So
I
what's
go
your guess?
again?
Yeah, you should go
Go again.
Take another
Wait,
question.
I think we just got it. So we-
yeah, Herbie couldn't hear.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
I gave it away.
That's okay.
That's okay.
We have a lot of questions.
Nah.
Yeah.
What association did Herb join when he was growing up? What award did they give him?
Ew, you might know.
Don't look around because you were gonna answer it, or we will go for
Okay.
it.
Can you
What
say
I
that
think-
again?
Wait, the question was, what association did you join growing up? But you shouldn't answer yet. And what award did they give you? He's gonna answer.
What do you have to guess?
I know.
All right.
We'll say it.
I think it has to do something with electronics. That's true. Yeah, so, okay, and an award probably putting something together that no one else could put together or fix.
Verbatim, that's the award. Yes.
The Mr. Fixer.
The answer is the Boy Scouts.
Well, you put
I
stuff together.
remember I became an Eagle Scout at the age of 13 or something. And the local men's club, I don't know whether it was a Rotary Club or the subgroup invited me. They picked me to come and talk to them during their nightly meeting. So I showed up at wherever they were, and they had the usual stuff, and they invited me to tell them about the Boy Scouts. And I was I couldn't say anything. I really was speechless. And I stood there for a while, and I sat down and ran out of the room. I didn't do a good job.
Oh man, that's funny. Pete? Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. 4. Green. Family. All right. What lie did Fred, John, and Walter all tell Herb and Ruth on the afternoon of their parents' 25th wedding anniversary? And why? Well, I bet it was some sort of lie to get everybody in the room for a surprise party or something. I take it was your 25th anniversary, is what the afternoon of their 25th anniversary. Maybe that something bad had happened and they had to come home right away or something. Quick, like dock the boat, come back to. Yeah, let's say that. Okay, well, your 25th wedding. I'm trying to think. The year you were born and the year you were married. So.
Married
You were
in
married in 49. So we're talking 69, 74, 1974.
That's the year that Dad graduated from college. So.
Okay.
year before that, a year after that, I was graduated.
You graduated in 75.
Yeah.
John got kicked out of school.
Yeah, I was gonna say something like that. Something like the Beatles are in town. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go with Fred. Fred drank too much and passed out in college, and everybody needs to come over and take care of him. I don't know.
Do you know Harvey? Do you know Harvey your 25th wedding?
I remember
July, it's
you had a
July.
surprise party at the Grays, which is now Fred's house. And they got us down there on some groups of meeting Byron and Joyce or something like that. And what I do remember is I had a broken arm or finger or
On the
something.
boat. Remember that was your finger on the boat.
And, yeah, that's right.
Before
Finger on the
July.
boat. I had broken it and it was over. And I couldn't shower. And I was wearing striped overalls. And I hadn't had a shower in 5 days or something. And I showed up at this party.
And the name of the boat, before Tularia, before the pub was Tularia, before Tularia was
Arrows,
Eros.
yes.
What was
It
the
on
lie,
Arrows.
Who knows the
I
lie?
know the lie.
I broke my finger, we were bringing it up with Jim and Suzanne Owens. We shared the boat, and we were bringing it up from City Island, and
New York City.
New York City. There were 3 owners, 3 families on this boat, and one of them was from Oxford, Maryland, and did not want it for the summer because there's no wind. So we picked it, he brought it up there, we picked it up, and I was at the helm. We had the wind behind us. There was a wind shift and a sudden jibe, and instead of just letting it go, I reacted as if I was in a dinghy and grabbed the main, and of course my finger went right through the block.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So the lie was that, I think I don't 100% remember the details. Oh, and now I do.
It
That
was
we-
something about Byron and Joyce.
No, the lie is that we had bought, we needed X dollars for the champagne. And Fred was gonna buy them at champagne. And so we said, well, let's go hit Dad up for money. And so Fred said, I'm going out, I need $5. I need some money. And he gave him $5. And I need more money. And he looked at it and said, gave him another 5. And then he said, you gotta get more money. So I went in and I said, I need money, I'm going out tonight. and he gave me $5. And I said, I need more money. He said, you don't need more money. What do you need more money for? I gotta go out. We're going out and I need more money. So you gave me $5 more. And Fred was 21 at the time, I think.
Yeah.
Could buy the champagne. So he went and bought the champagne for the party.
With $20?
No, we had extra money. We had all, like, we had $140. We needed $160.
We needed another $20.
Okay.
So there
who's next?
wasn't a lie, is what you're
No,
saying.
the lie was we needed to.
Get ready to go out.
We needed to go out.
Right.
So, hey, but it had to do with drinking.
He did have to do drinking.
They give him a bite.
And it wasn't
It was, I'm on pink, so that was family green.
Pink
Green.
pie?
Green pie.
Yeah. Marina, what year?
4.
I'm on one of these blues. I'll take this blue.
Okay.
And blue is outdoors and sailing. All right. What we got?
Not indoor.
What was the name of the first sailboat our family rented to cruise around New England, and what year did we rent it? This wasn't Mozart, was it? Was that?
That's Beethoven.
Oh, Beethoven. Okay.
The sunfish.
Okay.
Beethoven was the sunfish.
You probably rented it. I have no idea.
I know what it was.
We
Remember her? What?
No, I remember the vote.
Try for the
What is
year.
the vote?
Try
Oh,
for the
I
year.
remember it.
Bob Davis.
Bob
Okay.
Davis.
What year did you rent it? You guys rented it in 19... 1960.
Herbie, what was this boat? What was the? What's the right?
It was the Shanti.
Chris Craft.
No, 32.
sailboat. And
Wooden.
Wall to wall with carpeting.
Wooden.
I gave you that.
What was it called?
Shanti.
Shanty.
The Shanti was a 32-foot wooden boat. So 32 feet is not that big, but when the inside, because it's wooden rather than fiberglass, all the wood is very thick and all the joists and everything. So the inside of the boat is like a 24-foot boat.
About as wide as this.
So there was sleeping for 4. Herb and Ruth got bunks, and then Walter and I at the bow would have bunks like this, and John would sleep across the end of our feet at where the bow went up.
And Bob's then wife said to me, "This is a very fancy boat." And I said, "How do you know?" She said, "It has wall-to-wall carpeting." It was this narrow and it was soaking wet.
Oh, man.
And where did you sail it?
We sailed from Boston to Nantucket and back. With stops in between.
Over 2 weeks.
Yes, maybe 3 weeks.
2 weeks at least.
It was
And the first, we come out of Boston, South Boston Yacht Club, which is just south of Boston. And we sail out, we're out about an hour, and we're sailing in Cape Cod Bay. We're heading toward the canal. And a whale comes up beside us and spouts. And then we thought, my goodness, this is going to happen all the time. We thought, you'd like seeing
beginner's luck.
shells on the beach, You say, of course, you see lots of, this is what's going to happen all the time. This is amazing, but this is, you're going to see whales all the time.
Wow. Actually, we didn't sail it all the way back. We were on our way back when they announced that we were going to have a hurricane. So we went into Plymouth and we got in there in the middle of the night. The kids were sleeping
In the fog.
in the fog, and we were going very slowly on the engine because it's a very tortuous tap in, and we weren't charging the batteries and was that?
No, it's
Oh,
not my phone.
The engine died at this point, and Herb said, "I see a mooring," and he reached down and he got the mooring, and he said, "It's a wonderful mooring." In the morning, they they came to us and said we had to leave. It was the hurricane mooring for the Mayflower.
No way.
Pitch black, you
Yeah,
can't see.
but then Bob Davidoff came and we took his car and drove home and he took the boat.
Ah, good.
One.
Orange. So you're going on. Orange one.
Orange is wild card.
No, orange is young.
No,
You're right. You're right.
Orange is wild
You
card.
get to
Need a
choose
blue
your.
one. Actually, I own a brown one. Why did Herb make Walter crawl through a parking lot at Lincoln Labs? Make Walter crawl through a parking lot for fun. I would assume it has something to do with an experiment. How fast can you crawl? Early warning. Toddler.
Under the radar screen.
No, maybe because something was classified and he's not allowed to have family members there or something like that.
Escapes me.
Do you remember when I was a teenager, you were developing some sort of personnel?
Oh, yes, yes.
Tell this story now.
The Vietnam War was on. And there was the Vietnam were hiding behind the bushes, 50 feet from the military outpost, and then firing at the military outpost. So pressure was, you need a radar that could see people behind bushes, but the bushes didn't block the signal. It's a special kind of processing. And we put one of these together, and we're testing it.
Just before infrared, basically.
And the bushes and
Yeah.
he was a target.
So I was a young teenager, and we thought I would be about the same size as a Vietnamese soldier. So one weekend, we went out
Got all
to,
of these things.
we went out to a parking lot at Lincoln Labs, and I tried to crawl around, and he saw me every time.
Well, no way. And then that got used in Vietnam.
Yes.
The footprints of the lab are unimaginable. There wasn't a single activity that somehow or other we didn't get wired into. Not usually by our desire, but by someone coming and saying, you guys have got to help us because we get involved in something new. Ever expanding. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Sam, your turn.
I?
Said it had something to do with an experiment.
Yeah.
I said
Then it changed.
I think someone in doubt, I think when in doubt, pie, right?
Yeah,
Went down by.
Bye.
Which one are you using?
Orange.
That was a brown.
It was a half piece.
Okay.
Come on.
4.
Outdoors. Oh wait, I say we give him 5 now.
What's that? Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. You picked the right category.
Okay, how many times did Herb and Ruth sail wind power from New England to the Caribbean?
A lot.
Like, how long have they had the boat now?
25 years-ish.
But the first 3 years, it
We've had it
was,
for 30 years.
The first 4 years
You got it the year you retired, right?
Right.
Got it
64.
Herbert was 67, 64 he retired, and he spent 4 years in Europe. So 64.
4 years or 3?
Well, the last, I guess Sid Herbert was 67 when they sailed it back to Boston.
It was that.
I would say
In the last couple of years, they did
Yes.
sail it.
Yes.
10 times.
It's good number, I don't know, I didn't count.
Herb says yes.
How many? So how many?
Yeah.
So what was the first time you remember saying?
They say it's
You
hilarious.
sailed a boat, your wind power, you sailed from Europe over to
the Caribbean.
To the Caribbean, right?
Right.
Was that the first time you had sailed, and then you sailed up to New England from there?
Yeah.
Was that the first time you'd done?
No, we sailed the Caribbean before.
You sailed Tulare down one.
You sailed Tulare down?
They took a year off.
You
Kirby took a
joined-
sabbatical. About 5 years before that. They took a sabbatical before he retired, before he started up.
The thing I miss most is my memory.
I don't know, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you did it once in Tulare, and then you did the rest of the
So basically, it
I
was.
would guess about 15 times.
It's gotta be
But the
year.
time
Every
from
year.
Europe doesn't count, because the question said New England.
Right.
Yeah, but 67 is when Herbie was 67 when they got back here. So 68 would be 78, 88 would be 27 years minus the last 4 or 5 where you did.
No, the last 12.
You haven't been to sail the Caribbean last 12?
Yeah.
So that would be about
We did in
15.
Florida for 10, I think.
All right, so
And
that would be
for
15.
2 years before that.
All right,
we
we'll
went
give
to
you,
the
give him
Bahamas.
a.
We gave him a pie.
Okay, give him a pie.
Close
And
enough.
how long does it usually take you to sail that?
Oh, we were never in a great hurry, probably had 6 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah, we would go to Bermuda and wait a month for the weather. And then it would take a week to get to the Caribbean.
So
It would
Herbie,
take about 5 days to get to Bermuda.
tell the story about what happened, the big accident in the Caribbean when you actually did come from Europe. Your big accident on wind power was when you, was at the end of the trip from Europe to the
It
Caribbean.
was Tulare.
No, it was
Oh, it was
on
it was Tulare?
Tulare.
That's a good story.
What happened?
You remember being, was it,
We
you
were
were
just
dismissed?
past it.
Remember that story here?
Which one?
Tulare.
Losing their,
The mast.
losing the mast?
That's in
Main mast.
Bahamas.
Oh, the mast, we lost the mast.
You know, what was that about?
Well, we were sailing back from the Caribbean, and Bruce and I, as usual, we're usually the only 2 people on the boat. And we were up near an island called the south of Bahamas, about 400 miles
Well, it
north.
was in the outlying Bahamas. And we hadn't checked in because we hadn't come to a real port where you could check in yet.
In any event, we were sailing along on a fairly reasonable, nice day, and Ruth was at the helm. And,
We were sailing from the Turks and Caicos to the Bahamas.
Yeah. And for some reason or other, well, we tacked, she tacked, and
Because there was a reef
a
there.
fitting up on top of the mast let go.
Backstay.
Like a bolt or a what?
It kept on vibrating one way or another over the years, and the metal fatigued, and that was supporting the back of the mast. And the mast came down, broke in the middle.
Whoa.
The wind was pretty good, it was up to 15, 20
I think I
knots.
tacked it.
And about 500 feet from the shore, there was a rocky reef, lots of waves breaking, it was all white water. And I crawled up front and dropped an anchor, which must have caught on the ledge, because even though the boat was with this, we held very well. And so here we were sitting on an edge of a reef, with 20 knot winds blowing us into the reef, but bouncing away. And we had 2 other anchors on board, and we dropped them in the same place. Of course, they went straight down, they weren't doing any good, but they would pull back. In any event, so here we are, the sail was in the water, the top half of the mast was in the water, and all the wires that supported it didn't work. Well,
Let me interrupt to say that Herb was down below, I was up above, and instinctively, I always do the wrong thing. And when all of this happened, I started the engine, which was a big mistake because we had all these lines in the water and they immediately wrapped around the propeller,
Whoa.
so we had no engine.
Whoa.
And that's why we had to rush up and anchor.
so little by little, we started putting all the broken stuff, dragging it on board and dragging it up so it didn't drag again.
Could you drag a sail full of water?
Yeah. Sail was full of water.
Yeah.
Dragged it back little by little, and trying to get everything tidied up in the boat. But here we were, bouncing away. We weren't going anywhere, but there was no, we could see a shore, but no, unpopulated. Just empty around, no houses, no nothing. So, got on the radio, and I had a ham radio, and I put in a call, a Mayday call, and here comes somebody from Wisconsin. Who came back. I told him where I was and what the problem was, and could he get me in touch with both the Weather Bureau to find out what the winds were going to do, and also the Air Sea Rescue people.
Air Sea Rescue.
Bahamas. And they all tuned up to my ham radio frequency, and so I could sit on a boat and talk to them. They were 400 miles away or more. And Miami was the people I was talking to. Coast Guard said, well, you're halfway between Puerto Rico, which is 450 miles away, and Miami, which is 450 miles away. Those are the two places where we have support. And if your life was in danger, we can send an airplane over it and drop a raft. Well, it wouldn't do us any good because we already have a life raft on board which we
Yeah.
could use. And we wanted to get towed off. So all day long, the Weather Bureau, which came up on frequency, said that we don't see any change for the next 2 or 3 days. It'll be blowing 20 knots. Same thing from the east. So every 2 hours or 3 hours, I'd get on the radio and put out a mayday, hoping some ship would come by offshore and come. Finally, after the second day, nothing happened. Meantime, we couldn't eat because there was so much bouncing, we couldn't keep food down. Ruth would cook something and then half of it would fall out of the cup and the other half you'd take it and we'd throw it.
Oh my God.
And one day I got a hold of a tanker carried oil from Venezuela going up to New York or someplace. And the captain of the tanker got on the radio and said, told me exactly where I was. And I put out some flares. He couldn't see them. He was 20 miles away or 50 miles away. And he said, it's too dangerous for me to put a lifeboat out with people in that weather. He said, I can stand by and see if I can help you with the radio problem, but no. So on the third day, we got the bright idea of calling a guy we knew down in
Turks and Caicos.
Yeah,
This guy, I think he was a drug runner, I don't know.
I'm sure he was.
And he had an airplane.
And he had an airport and he had a tugboat.
Got a call into the police station down in Turks and Caicos.
I've heard about this Turks and Caicos drug. I mean, that was the spot for that.
And he said, well, I'll be up tomorrow with my plane. He said, I'll bring the cutter tools and we could get down free from the propeller. So next morning, sure enough, he was supposed to show up at daylight, but about 9 o'clock, he finally showed up. He said, a little plane flying around. He went right by us, didn't see us, went back, didn't see us. The boat was white and blue, and the ocean was all churned up with blue sea and white waves. and a little spot in the water isn't very big. Finally, on the third pass, just as he was giving up, he did see us. And we didn't have the right radio frequencies. He couldn't talk to them directly, but he wagged his wings and he went to shore. And I learned later that he landed the plane on a road, no airport there. And they found that there's supposed to have been a boat on the island that didn't come out or saw. Well, we waited, just toward the end of the day, after waiting 6 or 8 hours or something to happen. Meantime, we do this all the time. Here comes this rowboat.
Small boat.
Little tiny outboard boat with 3 guys on it. And a black creature who owns the boat and 2 others. And meantime, I looked at them in the waves, and I was afraid they were going to sink and capsize. It was terrible. And they finally got close enough we could yell at each other. And they said, jump aboard, we'll take you back to shore. Well, that wasn't the thing we did. Particularly one, we wanted to get off the boat, but we didn't want to leave it. And lo and behold, because I had to keep the batteries charged, I could turn on the engine, but I couldn't put it in gear. So I could charge the batteries periodically. And every once in a while I would go forward and back to try to get the wires. Lo and behold, just as they were nearby, the wires were clear. They must have just shaken off. And we yelled to them that if they could lead us through the reef, we could follow them around the back of the island, which they succeeded in doing. And it took us a long time to get through the breaking sea. For a long time to go backwards and forwards and backwards. And maybe after half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, we got far enough from land, so it was flattened out a bit. We were around the back of the island. They led us through a narrow cut.
Meanwhile, Bahamas Air Sea Rescue that was supposed to come and rescue us announced on the noontime radio that everybody listened to that the boat Teleria had sunk.
Wow.
Yes, and all our friends were in tears.
Wow.
And I think you heard from Jim Owen, you were in the house, that we were capsized or had sunk or something.
Yeah, we got some horrible.
No, we got some story that you were basically your condition, that you were up against the reef with your anchors down, and you weren't sure what you were gonna be able to do.
Okay.
I have a question.
Well, anyway, after the third day, we got around the back of the island. Things were quiet and flat. And here we were in the boat. The creature and the guy in the little boat had to go back because they ran out of fuel. In fact, we got them aboard and gave them a drink and some food before they could land it. They had time to sleep in for a while. And, okay, so we tried to figure out how to jury rig the remainder of the sail so we could do something.
Without a mainmast.
We went to sleep for a whole day because that long before we did. And here was this stub of a mast, and we tried throwing lines over, pushing it up in the pole, doing everything else. Finally, after many, many tries, we could get a line up on top, and we put a block up there and hold the top half of the sail. And we had a mizzen sail, so we had an engine.
Then Herb took a tuck in the jib, so we had a jib too.
Yeah, a little bit.
He shortened it.
So, anyway, we progressed from there and went all the way back to Bahamas and then back to Miami, to Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
In the meantime, on the radio, it's wonderful, the radio's like the internet. You put out on a new mast, looking for a mast this size, this diameter, this height. And we got the word that the nearest one was in Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida is about 200 miles north of Fort Lauderdale. We we got to this yard where you could get stuff done, and we're looking for some way to get up to Tampa to get this mast. This mast was fortunately cut in two pieces with a sleeve, which allowed you to hook them together so you could make a long mast out of it. We checked, it turned out there was a station wagon in the parking lot, an old beat-up station wagon with a flat tire. And the owner of the wagon said, if you buy me a new tire, you can borrow the wagon. So we called the state police about how long a thing can we put on the roof of a station wagon and run on the highway. So they told us we could, if we sail only in daylight, we motor only in daylight, and put a red flag on the back, it could be 35 feet or some number like that. So we made a deal, and we went from non-stop from Fort Lauderdale, 200 miles, up there. The mast was waiting for us, put it back on the top of the car. It's the only time we've eaten at McDonald's 8 times in a row.
That's a good trivia question.
You didn't do the drive-through though.
Yeah.
It goes in fast.
Yeah.
They started supersizing it.
It was fun.
Have you lost friends at sea? Like your friends were worried that you were
We
lost?
lost that.
Have you lost any friends at sea? Like have you,
Well, we hear of it, but not close friends.
Not people.
Lost a lot of friends who.
Don't be that question anymore.
They can hardly die.
And the last ones that we know of were friends of friends who made the decision to leave Malaysia and sail around Cape Horn, and the pirates got them. Four, mother, father, and 2 teenage boys were killed. That prompted our friends to say, this is Nancy and Barbara Zack from Annapolis. Yes, we will put our boat on a freighter and send it to Turkey.
So whose question?
It's my turn.
Oh, you get a pie for that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
6. 7. 5, 6. Do I get on the blue?
Oh, then you just got a question. It was.
Yes,
Right.
10 times.
He was within 5, so we can.
What favorite sport of Herb's led Ruth to get herself psychoanalyzed? This is in the outdoors sailing section. Favorite sport of Herb's? A favorite sport of Herb's. Well, so far we've got electrical engineering, lamb roasting.
Favorite sport?
I don't know.
Only sport I know of skiing.
Yes.
It's got to be something crazy that makes her feel like she needs to get tested.
Yeah, I don't know.
Airplane.
Anybody want to jump in and the answer to this question?
I know what I think the answer is.
Go ahead, you say.
I know at the end.
Well, I think it was mountain climbing because,
Right.
well, okay, that
Let
was
her-
my
let her
guess.
finish.
Because Ruth had a fear of heights, which was preventing her, this is a story I heard, preventing her from, doing whatever it was with her. And she went into psychoanalysis to get over her fear of heights.
And it was skiing rather than mountain climbing.
Okay.
It was falling down, right?
It was, the first time we went skiing was on a golf course, that was fine. The second time, we went to Conway, New Hampshire, and he said, you're just a beginner, you stay on the little local at the bottom, and then he went to buy tickets, and he bought 2 tickets to the top. And there I was, and it was sheer ice, and it was narrow, and there were rocks sticking up, and he said, so go. Was not for me.
I didn't know that made you get psychoanalyzed.
Well, that was the family story.
Yeah.
So Teddy.
It was like the time I went snowboarding with Jacob. There in the demo. Went to the top and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Sat down.
Well, we had-
First time Walter took me to the top in Vermont, I had the same reaction.
Yeah.
Orange back? Oh yeah, go for it.
When Herb was in a body cast, what did he do? What did he do with the cast?
What did he do to the cast? or-
Okay, what did he do to the cast and what tool did he invent?
Read it, or just hand it over. Sure,
You
sure.
wanna come up with a guess on that one?
I think I'm gonna
Yeah. Don't tell. Oh,
call him right here.
You can, okay, if he was in the body cast, was he happy or not happy?
He was not happy.
So what would he do to the body cast?
Try to break it.
Close. He edited it with a big pliers. Kept cutting. I don't need this part. I don't need this part. He kept opening up his body cast.
Okay.
So Herbie, what do you remember about your cast, your back?
Well, I knew it was terribly uncomfortable under my arms, particularly. I was like this, couldn't move. So I cut the plaster. I don't know what tool I invented.
You invented the scratchy thing. It was
Scratchy.
You got a clothes hanger, and then you put these things, and you put it in here. You had
Wiggled it under
you
the
wiggled
cast.
it underneath the cast.
Way of scratching inside the cast.
Yeah, it's very itchy.
Okay, did you get a pie from that?
He did.
did
You
get
got
it.
it.
You got it right.
He used to
All right.
He get a pie.
2. I'm pink, right?
Yes.
I gotta roll again. All right. 3.
You gonna roll again?
I could roll again, or I could go blue or orange.
Young blue.
Let's go back to
We got
Orange is
blue,
wild.
baby.
orange. Always wild card.
Yeah.
What haven't we done?
I think family.
I think food and traveling. Oh, it's family. Let's do family.
Yeah.
Yes, feels thick. All right. So,
Same amount.
Rough.
what was the only time John remembers being hit by Herb?
Oh, this is a good question.
Well, John remembers. Herb doesn't remember.
Well, you got body surfed into one time, right? Her body surfed into your nose. Only time John remembers being hit by Herb. I wonder if you did something to like scare him, such that he was very angry with you. Maybe you I'll say you ran into the road.
And we were on a sailboat, and the seas were rough, and the bigger boys got to go up with life jackets on, and I was not allowed to go up with life jackets
You
on.
mean up on deck?
Up on deck, because I was too little. And so.
Like age 3?
Yeah, like I was trying to go up all the time. I think it was like 5. And you were saying, stay in the cockpit, stay in the cockpit. You can't go up, it was rough. And so then I walked up there and you went, wow. And that was the first time you ever, I think the only time you ever heard it.
I don't remember that.
I think you deserve a pie for that.
Yeah.
Where yeah. Oh wait, I've got it.
Well, it doesn't
Oh,
get
it doesn't matter. 2
We're
greens.
not ready to this
We're not,
Right.
no, we're not.
Okay, Logan, go for
Who
it.
makes a pie that has 6 different slices in it anyways?
Sounds awesome. It's hard to do.
2.
Which is yours?
You want blue or orange? Wild card? And you can choose whatever.
Sure.
Now you don't know what to try.
Your food and travel.
Okay.
All right. What hotel did Herb choose to visit when you won a bet, and what did he do there? What hotel did you choose?
I think this might be one of
What
those.
restaurant?
Here going on. Yeah. I think this was Fred. This is
This is
her.
a Fred question.
This is a Fred question.
It is
So
her.
Herb won a bet
Yeah.
and could go to any something. If he won the bet or lost the bet, he either buy some.
You had to buy someone dinner or have dinner bought for him?
Yeah.
So he chose a restaurant at
The Ritz?
Somerset or something.
Yeah, yeah.
it was the Somerset or the Ritz.
Yeah, that Ritz. It was the Ritz.
So
Okay.
Herbie, do you remember this? What was
What
this
did
for?
you do there?
You ate dinner.
He ate a specific exotic
Dinner.
food.
And
What was the bet?
French.
Who was,
It was Somerset, I think, Commonwealth Avenue.
what was the bet? What was the?
Well, I forget the details of the bet, but Don Fink, who was editor of the Electronics magazine, New York, the guy that I worked from, went to the Somerset Hotel, and I looked at this menu, which is mostly French, and one of the things they had was eggs Benedict.
Mock pheasant.
Huh?
Mock pheasant.
Well,
He said it was mock pheasant.
it could have been. I'm trying to remember. Quite close to it.
Just one of the things they had was eggs Benedict.
Well, the gist of it
Just
was,
one of the things.
I expected a plate of something like pheasant or something, fancy. It turned out what I ordered was scrambled eggs. What they call it.
We have to Google mock pheasant. See
Yeah,
what's that.
he's got,
That was my.
Let's save that for later.
Sounds like
In any event,
That's my.
Just-
well shared.
I had a very fancy meal with scrambled eggs.
If you wanted that.
So what year was that? Was that?
Oh, that's
How old were
gonna
you?
be way back.
Probably in college
That
or
would be,
just after college.
44, 43.
Middle of the war.
What could it be?
Still in the war?
Yeah.
Probably before the war, maybe.
How do you remember a thing like that? I don't even know.
Fred.
Stories. You told us stories over the years.
6. Yes.
Almost the 7 you've been hoping for.
I need
Only one more. You could.
What a strategy.
Get a one, give us
6. Whoa. Back to work.
You get out of jail now.
green. I need green. Blank key cheater. Why did Granny Lottie cry when Ruth told her that she was getting married to Herb the following week? Because they had
Tears. These
Yes.
stories.
because they had only been dating for a week.
I think we dated for less than 2 months, but I don't think it was quite that.
It sounds
I think also Granny Lottie wanted to have time to plan the wedding. I guess.
Ruth, this affects you.
So what?
So Jacob, what is your answer?
Why did Granny Lottie cry when Ruth told her she was getting married to Herb the following week? She wouldn't be able to get family members to come in time.
My recollection was that Granny was saving money for weddings. Isn't that right?
Probably.
She would put a quarter away for Joan's wedding and for Ruth's wedding, and that was a lot of money ever since she was born. And then you see her getting married, and the first question is, you Jewish? Yes. And then, but you said she wanted a big wedding.
So
Joan
where?
obliged.
So where was your wedding? How big was it?
Well, it was in Granny Lottie's living room. She rallied, rented 2 potted palms for either side of the fireplace. And I think there were 11 of us there, including Herbie and me.
Including Herb's roommate, who was invited because the rabbi had a broken leg and needed to be carried up in the and he couldn't get up to the living room without someone carrying him with his broken leg. And Herb's roommate was 6'6" and a big strapping guy, so he got invited.
from Mozambique. My bad.
A different leg.
So Herbie, why don't you just tell the story of your meeting Ruth and proposing to her?
Well, Ruth can tell us better, but we met in Cambridge. I was living on, by the law school, on Everett Street, in an apartment with a couple of guys. And one of my friends nearby invited us to our dinner party. And Ruth showed up at the same party. And we talked with I said, I'd like to see her again. She gave me a phone number. She was very busy and I was very busy. And we both called a couple of times, and neither of us could find a date. We were both were free. And finally, I called one day, and she said, I have a friend getting married in Quincy or someplace like that. If you could take me to Quincy, after the wedding, I'll go out with you. So I picked her up in my car, which is an old Buick, and went to the wedding, and went through the reception line. And I said to Ruth, weddings are kind of fun. Why don't we get married? And she said, I'll let you know tomorrow. Sure enough, I called, she said, sure. We'd known each other about, well, once before, and then this time.
So was your second time?
Second time.
Yeah. And when did you get married? Like, how long after that?
Well, it took us, from the time we met, and then there was a week before we went out to Chickies and George's
Blood
wedding.
tests and all that
And it was
stuff.
2 weeks more before we could get all the paperwork done, blood tests and all the other things.
About 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I want to know, I put this question in there, we probably won't get to it, but one of the family stories claimed that a car breakdown figured in this courtship somehow. Was there a broken down car involved?
Yes, there was. Herb wanted to introduce me before we got married to his very good friends, the Weissers, Jerry and Leah, and it was summer, and they were on vacation in a house on a lake in New Hampshire. They had 2 kids by that time. And we went up there, and it was a very bumpy road, and
Bang the transmission, leaked the oil out of the car.
yeah, so we couldn't leave, so we had to stay there.
At the Wiesners?
Yes,
But you were engaged already by then, huh?
yes, we were engaged, and they were,
Were they horrified? Just because of the speed? No.
no, they were very gracious.
All right. How about next? Whose turn next?
Was yours?
Okay.
That's the answer.
1.
Well,
Young Herb.
No, young Herb.
Young What musical instrument did Herb play when he was a boy?
Good
All
question.
right, I can hear it.
I really don't know.
Yes.
Piano.
You're right.
No, violin.
And a violin, later on a violin.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Never played it very well.
Herbie, 2 parts. Herbie, later on you played the flute.
As an adult.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And you played the flute too.
Never really played any of them very
He
well.
really wanted the bassoon, though.
My hands.
He was too little.
Oh. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'll go with 12. What was the car the family bought when they went to Germany in the mid-1960s? What did Ruth make custom for this car? How large was the engine? How much did it cost? If it was in mint condition, what would it be worth? This is a lot of questions.
Any one right
You
answer.
get a whole pile.
You can wrap up the game right now. This is the snitch.
I'm gonna guess like German-made car, right? So
Could be a-
Volkswagen.
Yes.
And what was the style of
What did-
Volkswagen that was popular at the time?
That's the bug.
Pie.
What did Ruth make custom for this car?
Pie.
Pie holder.
Bagel holder. I don't know. Maybe some kind of seat cover? What else do you make custom for a car?
I would guess something sewn.
Right. Why would you make a seat
It's a
cover?
small car.
I would say a ski rack,
A rack, yeah.
but it sounds like what Herb would do.
Right. I don't know.
Herbie, do you remember, what did Ruth make for the DW in Europe?
Once you got it over.
I don't know.
I don't remember exactly. I remember that we were going to get, buy a Volkswagen convertible,
Right.
and we were going mountain hiking. And everybody had a backpack, a leather pack, and boots. And the problem is that all 5 of us got into this VW convertible.
With all the stuff.
With all our luggage.
Right.
So everybody had to pack up his stuff, and we did a tryout pack. We borrowed a Volkswagen from, I guess, Jack Rowe, and brought it home. Everybody packed their stuff. And we got a little carrier on the trunk, and managed to get everybody to fit in it. It was very tight. Everything part of was packed. Worked out fine.
And John, what did Ruth make custom for you?
I remember
I did
this is
last
that
night.
you built custom made luggage that would fit in the back, that would fit back there. The car cost $1,600. It was 1,600 cc's. And I always thought that you paid $1 per cc, because I remember it was just random. And then we shipped it back,
Right.
but I don't remember anything.
And a mint 19, was it
I know,
1960?
Yeah.
66 or 64?
No, 64.
64.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I have no idea, but a lot.
Okay, get a pie.
You got
I got pie.
Okay.
All right.
Tied up.
Okay, we're getting near the end, guys.
Right.
It's
Time is it?
12:30.
12:38.
38, yeah.
Okay, so
I think
Stopping
we
at
probably
one.
paid $1,200 for the car. They if you thought it was $18,000, $20,000.
go ahead, you can roll. Okay.
You could almost go on continuously with the board.
Yeah.
You'll give it a piece of pie.
No, blue.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
Yeah, it's blue.
yeah, it's blue. So you said roll again.
Wait.
No,
No, no, no.
It's blue.
Okay, yeah, blue.
Blue.
It's like the third time I've had this one.
It's okay, I have plenty of questions.
How did Walter break Herb's nose?
We discussed this earlier today.
Sam is reminiscent of anything.
Pete mentioned something
Yeah.
about when Herbie hit Walter.
But it was really Walter hitting Herbie.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. I think this one's through.
Do you want a hint?
Yes.
This took place in an aqueous environment.
So it's staring.
In the water.
At the
In the
beach.
water.
At the beach.
Literally in the water.
Watermelon.
Pie for you.
Herbie, do you remember this? We were body surfing down, I think it was in Rhode Island,
Okay.
Cape Cod. And I was standing up in the water, and you were body surfing in, and you banged into me, dislocated his nose.
Right.
And you remember how they fixed it at the end? Right. I remember the ear, nose, and throat doctor took him into the operating room, had him all draped in sterile drapes and everything like that.
You were there?
Yeah, I went in and then he grabbed his nose and went.
They didn't have a little
No,
special,
it was all
they didn't scream one way or the other.
I think, I don't
Did you
know,
give him an sedation or was it?
probably numbed his nose up or something.
Yeah, he had a shot of vodka before he
Yeah.
said the doctor.
Here we go. 4. All right. Yellow is, what was yellow? Food and travel, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Why did a chauffeured limo pick up the Weiss family at Heathrow when they went to Europe in 1964, and where did it take them? I'm sure it had to do with Herb's Lincoln Lab or, you know, RAF work. Where did it take them? I bet it took them to the American Embassy.
Well, you're almost right.
All right.
High five.
When I contacted my friend in England, who was the guy I worked with closest. He, at that time, was president of the largest electronic company in England. It was
General Electric of England Limited.
And he immediately sent me a wire, invited us to dinner, and he said, I'll have my car meet you at the airport. And at the airport, we came up with a ferry. He met us in the ferry stop from France.
No, we
He
went
went the other way around.
He met us,
flew in.
We flew-
and we flew in
All right, so
into some.
anyway, here comes this Rolls Royce with a chauffeur driver, uniform, hat, and all that. And they took us back to the office of the company, took us up to the top floor, and they had a big spread lunch.
Wow.
We had 5 or 6 waitresses and after
We
that, we had a tight schedule. We would do only 2 hours later to get back to the airport.
Wow.
He said, well, what would you like to do in that period? Well, we ought to see Westminster Abbey, we ought to see
Buckingham Palace.
So then we drive up to the Buckingham Palace where the guards are all there. And this Rolls Royce parked right in front. They salute him.
They moved? They're not supposed to move.
He's one of the leaders of the country.
Wow.
And so we did a whirlwind trip, 4 or 5 city places and then the airport.
Wow.
And driven around.
All the boys?
Chauffeur Rolls, a great big car about this.
Wow.
This was probably on the way to Germany to pick up the VW.
Wow.
That's right.
So that VW stayed in Europe, right? You guys,
No,
you brought that home?
Yeah.
We shipped it.
Why, right, say.
Became every
Wow.
boy's car ultimately.
Wow.
Yours first.
Mine first.
Wow.
Where's all that?
Gone.
Grandma
So-
was gonna say something else about this trip.
We had this whirlwind trip of London, and then the chauffeur said, was there something else? And Walter said, I would like to go to Hill.
Violin shop.
Whoa, famous violin shop there.
And we went there, and we went in and saw all these valuable, and Walter bought a piece of rosin.
That's all I can afford.
So I,
And the double parks right in the main street.
Somebody's gonna get a ticket.
I remember, I thought the story was that you had told him he was coming, and he gave the chauffeur the day off the day before to do a trial run of how to navigate, how to get around all these sites that he thought we should see.
Wow.
So he could time his route of how to get places. The second thing I remember about that is we fly in and we're groggy, we've flown all night, and we didn't get a good night's sleep, and we meet the chauffeur who whisks us around, and we go to this top floor of the dining room, and we are 10, 12, and 14, 12, and 9,
Yeah.
8, and we're groggy, and they bring out bread and breadsticks and a big bowl of soup, and we eat the soup and think that's a really big lunch. And then they bring out roast beef and Yorkshire pudding
Yeah.
and potato, they bring out this awesome dinner that just never stops. It was like a real,
And they ate it.
oh, I couldn't eat any more, that's a good.
You only had a few hours because you were about to catch another flight.
No, we were going to take a ferry
To France.
To Ostend.
Yeah.
to head toward picking up the car in a day or two.
Wow. You guys buy all your vehicles in Europe.
So whose role?
I think it's me.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
Well, we theoretically have 15 minutes. We could stop any time.
We can do 15 minutes more.
Do a little bit more?
15 minutes.
Okay.
Whatever. Somebody's close. I think we're getting close to doing it. As we keep awarding pies.
Yeah.
5.
You get a 5 for just rolling.
Yeah. So three the row with pie. You want brown or do you want probably what we're on there? No. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. You want yellow?
Brown.
Okay. Going to brown.
Brown's good.
Brown.
I have the brown folder.
Work.
I'm gonna pie you right now.
Work.
Honorary pie.
If you roll 3, you should get a pie.
Where did Herb meet the physicist Richard Feynman?
No idea.
Probably at Los Alamos or Lincoln Lab or MIT
He was a long time Cornell prop.
or at Cornell.
Good.
Yep. We knew you.
My first guess. Knew it the whole time.
Speed pie.
Yes.
Another 6. Almost a 7.
You're the orange.
You gotta roll.
I'm orange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
6.
5, 6.
6.
That's the same way there.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Go back.
You go back to where you were.
Family.
Yeah.
Speed round. Daily double.
Thanks for your help, Ted.
5 second rule.
Wait, I know it! At Ruth and Herb's wedding, what important role did Herb's roommate play? Hey, the rabbi! Give me 5. Okay.
And
6. Wild card.
Okay.
Anybody want?
Younger.
those are the tough ones.
He doesn't remember shit, answer anything.
Okay, give us another pie.
Okay, when did Herb's father come to the USA?
So, he came when he was 11 or 12.
We heard when
Very
mom
good.
came to the
So what,
USA.
and Herb was born in
And maybe that's
1918.
plus or something.
Well, it has to be before 1918.
Yeah.
We can guess.
1907.
Fine, yes.
That's a good guess.
Yeah, let's give you a pie.
Guess approved.
Herb, do you know? Do you know?
where your father came?
Okay.
Well, we know he was 11.
He was 11 or 12.
11 years old.
So, probably
He
about.
said he had you when he was 22. So it's 11 years before 1918.
Really?
That's it. Just write a number. Any number will do.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Blue or gray?
Crazy roll again.
Okay, here's really good. I'll just go for blue.
Outdoors and sailing.
What happened to the sweater Herb won in a ski race?
Ruth threw it out. That was a guess.
I think that's definitely my guess.
Probably right.
I have Ruth's only.
I have an alternative guess. Should I take the sweater?
Yeah.
Sure all got torn from those. Remember, I remember seeing this sweater because it was like that.
She washed it.
She washed it. And it shrunk down to like a little baby size. This beautiful Norwegian.
No wonder I don't remember.
I remember seeing it.
Where was this race? Do you remember?
Later than the Los Alamos one.
I think it was the, I think the
down from Pinkham,
Yeah.
in Mount Washington.
Mount Washington.
Climb up Notch.
Yeah, climb up Mount Washington, ski
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's roll?
One more speed round.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay.
Six.
Six.
Yellow.
Or brown. That's right.
You got, oh wait, but
Yellow.
neither one of those is a roll.
No, I know, I'm speaking
Oh,
out.
oh, okay.
I'm
see.
going,
Going to be yellow.
Yellow.
Food and travel.
why not?
Why not?
Maybe some pineapple.
When did Herb first set foot in Italy and what were the circumstances?
Oh, this is a good one.
So we,
I didn't know this
I don't know this
until we actually did it.
And then we?
No, it's
Oh.
make up an adventurous answer.
Okay. Wait, can I get the question again? Sorry.
Went to
He
buy
needs
some
to see the question again.
Yeah, he wants to read it again.
It might have been a mistake while he was traveling and he was trapped, like meant to go to someplace else. He had gone to Italy. And that's
It's a
my
good
guess.
It's
guess.
a good guess.
Get a pie. Get a
You
pie.
got a pie. Okay, what's
So
the story, Herbie?
Good. You remember the story?
I'm not sure I do.
I remember the story because as you go from country to country in Europe, you have to go through customs and immigration at each country, at each border crossing. And we were going into Italy as a family to hike in the Dolomites after hiking in Austria, and they asked, "Have you ever been to Italy before?" It was one of the questions the immigration wanted to know, like because if you've been back and forth and they thought you were smuggling or something or doing something. And everybody answered no. And then Herbie said, "Actually, I've been to Italy before, but nobody knows. Because I was dropped here to repair a radar and then flown out again. Whoa! And I was only here like 24 hours.
So were you behind the lines?
Right.
Where were you? What's the story? Do you remember?
Not too much, but it was a pretty common occurrence. The Pathfinder group who knew where they were going, the only people in the airplanes who knew really where they were going, like GPS today, was used very extensively. To drop spies and drop equipment, drop special people all over Europe. And while the war was going on, if you 20 miles from the war, there's nothing going on. It was a little village. So if you obeyed the local gendarme, and they had enough contact to know where to put people. And they put me at a military base by an air ground. I didn't even know the name of the base.
Okay.
I never knew that.
And this was shocked because after everybody went through customs, no, we've ever been to Italy. People said, "Actually, I remember I was in Italy once."
It's a very common thing. You can't imagine every day.
What year?
During World War II, it must have been 30, 41 or something.
42, 43.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we
the
went-
US wasn't over there until
Yeah.
42.
But it was,
I am the pink one. So, blue or pink? All right, roll again. I'm gonna roll again because we've done so many blues.
Yeah, we actually don't have any blue pie left.
Nice.
Oh.
2. All right. Green, family,
or red.
or red. There's younger. I'm gonna go family.
You already know green.
That's okay, yes, two
Give
greens.
me all the greens. Ooh. What role did an auto breakdown play in Herb and Ruth's courtship? I know this one. It got them stuck
Pick another
at a
one.
cabin in New Hampshire. Okay, pick another one. We're gonna keep going.
Okay.
All right. More pie. Was Herb bald when he got married? All the way bald? He's still not all the way bald.
No, not all the way bald.
The answer is yes, he was partially bald. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay, 5 minutes to go, guys.
6. Am I orange?
Yeah, go quick.
All right.
No, I'm orange.
You're orange. What am I?
You're blue.
I'm blue.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Great. I'll do that.
So that's wild card.
That's wild card.
Choose any color. Looks like we have a lot of young Herb and
Doesn't matter.
wild card.
What do people want to hear about?
Whatever you like.
Young Herb.
All right. So it is.
Okay.
You know, I could go back just a second.
Yeah.
Paul. Doing the early work on air traffic control, and I had put together a concept of how to do it, and the Navy decided to try it out, and they were training pilots at Brigantine, New Jersey, and Atlantic City was the airfield, and the whole squadron set up there to exercise, and I was teaching aviators a little about air traffic control and how it's done. After 2 weeks or so, the course was over, and I was leaving. They had a big dinner for me, all the pilots, and I was given a book labeled "How to Save Your Hair." I opened up the book; it was hollow. Put it in here.
So I pulled out where was Herb's mother born? Should we sort of answered this?
No,
Should I
pick another.
All right.
Take another one.
Okay. What was Herb's honorary military rank at the age of 21? He was a colonel. All right.
We're all running out.
He's getting 3 pies.
Yeah.
Getting full. Oh man, I'm gonna skip this one. I'm gonna skip that one too.
Why are you skipping?
They're morbid. They're deaf.
Oh, okay.
What languages did Herb's mother and father speak? Russian?
Good shot.
Sounds right.
It is.
Maybe a little German too, but Russian.
All right.
Good.
And Yiddish? Did they know Yiddish?
Did they speak Yiddish?
You like that? You
Did they speak Yiddish?
Huh?
Did they
Yes, I think so.
What are you?
Spanish?
Young Herb?
Or, yeah.
We'll take a roll again. Wild card.
Pink.
Which one do you have more?
Yeah, pink is young Herb.
Young Herb. Young Herb it is.
Okay.
The orange. That's the wild card.
What pranks did Herb pull while he was at MIT?
Oh, I'm glad I got to this one.
One about a car being taken apart and put back together
Yes.
in a room, and then turning on.
The top of the building.
On
No,
the
no, the top of the building was the top of the building was an MIT prank. A Herb prank.
Herb's was in the room and then it turned on when you opened the door. Right.
The car?
Yeah, the car started.
The dormitories at MIT were 3 stories high, and they had a prank, and we go in the men's room, which was all tile, and a basket, a waste paper basket, and they light the fire and open the window. Smoke would come out, and so people would call the fire department, and the fireman had to carry a hose all the way up the stairway to the 3rd floor. At the time they got the hose up, there were people down at the bottom cutting the hose up with short pieces. And after a couple of these events, the word came down that everybody's going to have to pay for the hose that was destroyed. So it stopped the event pretty much.
So
So we mailed a piece of the hose back to the fire department.
there were 2 other pranks. So there was one about the Austrian guy in his car.
Well,
That's a
that was
DuPont
what I had
there.
nothing to do with, but they took a car, disassembled it, and got it up to the roof of the tallest building at MIT, big dome, reassembled it. It was a Cambridge police car.
I thought there was
was
a
a
really
Model T.
wealthy guy who lived on your floor who like went to Austria for the weekend to go skiing.
He was at DuPont, he went home to
I remember
Delaware.
another one with the guys, I didn't participate directly, but they got a truck from the Cambridge Works Department and an air drill, the compressor and the whole bit. And they went out to Memorial Drive and set up barriers and started digging up the street. They made a big hole and it disappeared.
Was there one about a cow?
Yeah, that's it.
All kinds.
Yes,
There was one about a
you're right. There
You
was
told
one
me-
about a cow that they put up on top of a
You
building.
told me that there was one about, you said, I remember you telling me when I was little that cows won't go
Yeah, they won't go
downstairs.
downstairs.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so you brought cows up
The cow
to,
went to the third floor and they couldn't get them down. They had to hoist it down.
It was happy to go up the stairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just can't-
Okay, guys, it's 1 o'clock. Thank you.
The other one was
Wait,
Say again?
say again?
the Harvard-Yale game was all set up in Cambridge, and in intermission, the center of the field erupted. They had laid an explosive wire. It said MIT on it.